shattered symphony. The final note lingered in the air of Melody Winter's private studio, her bow hovering above the cello strings as she closed her eyes to savor the moment. At 32, she had built a reputation as one of the city's most emotive classical musicians, her talent earning her a place in the prestigious Westlake Philharmonic. Her free hand instinctively rested on her rounded belly, 6 months pregnant with the child she already loved beyond measure. "That was beautiful," came a soft voice from the doorway. Melody opened her eyes to see Eliza, her assistant and friend, standing with an expression that didn't match her complimentary words. Something was wrong. "What is it?" Melody asked, carefully setting her cello aside. Eliza hesitated. "There's something you should see." The phone screen Eliza handed her displayed a series of messages between Nathan, Melody's husband of 5 years, and Sophia Renaud, the Philharmonic's new first violinist. The intimate exchanges left nothing to interpretation. Their affair had been ongoing for months. "I'm so sorry," Eliza whispered. "I found it when he asked me to check his schedule this morning. He forgot he was still logged in." Melody felt the room tilt slightly. Nathan, her husband, her partner, the composer whose music had intertwined with her life, the father of her unborn child, betraying her with a woman 10 years her junior. A woman who had smiled to her face while secretly undermining everything she believed in. "How could I have been so blind?" Melody whispered, tears threatening to spill. Later that evening, when Nathan returned from working late at the studio, Melody confronted him with quiet dignity. "How long?" she asked simply. Nathan's initial denials crumbled when Melody showed him the messages. His handsome face, once so beloved to her, transformed into something unrecognizable as he shifted from defense to attack. "You've been so absorbed in your pregnancy and your career," he said coldly. "Sophia understands the demands of creative genius. She inspires me in ways you no longer can." The words cut deeper than Melody could have imagined. "And what about our child? Does your creative genius extend to abandoning your responsibilities as a father?" Nathan's expression hardened. "Sophia and I have discussed it. I'll provide financial support, but we need space to cultivate our artistic connection." "Artistic connection," Melody repeated, the words tasting bitter. "Is that what you call betrayal these days?" Before Nathan could respond, Melody's phone chimed with an email. Despite the chaos of her personal life, she opened it automatically, a habit from years of professional discipline. "Distinguished Ms. Winters," the email read, "we are honored to invite you to perform as a featured soloist at this year's Winter Arts Gala. Your interpretation of contemporary classical pieces has captivated our committee. The Winter Arts Gala, the most prestigious cultural event of the season, attended by every notable figure in the arts community. The same gala where Nathan would be premiering his latest composition, no doubt with Sophia at his side." "Congratulations," Nathan said, reading over her shoulder with an undertone of condescension. "Though I wonder if it's wise in your condition. The committee likely extended the invitation before you began showing." Melody placed her phone down carefully, a new resolve forming within her. "I'll be there," she said firmly. "And I'll be performing. Melody, be reasonable. You're 6 months pregnant. No one wants to see a soloist waddling across the stage." "Is that what Sophia told you to say?" Melody asked, a steely calm replacing her earlier hurt. "Or did you come up with that cruelty all on your own?" That night, after Nathan left to stay at what she now realized was Sophia's apartment, Melody called the one person who had always believed in her talent above all else, Oliver Hayes, her childhood friend and now conductor of the city's experimental chamber orchestra. "I need your help," she told him, her voice stronger than she felt. "I have 6 weeks to create something unforgettable." Oliver's warm, steady voice came through the phone. "Whatever you need, Mel, I'm here." As she hung up, Melody placed both hands on her belly, feeling the gentle movement of her child within. "We're going to be okay," she whispered, a promise to herself and her baby. Better than okay. We're going to shine, resonating courage. The rehearsal space echoed with the haunting melody from Melody's cello, each note carrying the weight of her emotions. Oliver watched from the conductor's podium, his expression a mixture of admiration and concern. "That's it," he said as she finished the passage. "That vulnerability in the third movement. It's exactly what the piece needs." Melody lowered her bow, wiping a bead of sweat from her brow. "It needs to be perfect, Oliver. Not just good, perfect." Over the past 3 weeks, they had worked tirelessly on her new composition, a piece she titled Rebirth in B minor. It would be her statement to the world and, more importantly, to herself. "You're pushing too hard," Oliver said gently, approaching her. At 34, he carried himself with the quiet confidence of a man who understood music's true power. "Remember what Dr. Reynolds said about stress." "I'm fine," Melody insisted, though the slight ache in her lower back suggested otherwise. "The baby's fine. We just need to run through it once more." Oliver sighed but nodded. He knew better than most how music had always been Melody's sanctuary. Now it was also becoming her shield. The door to the rehearsal room opened abruptly, revealing Nathan with Sophia clinging to his arm. Melody's fingers tensed around her bow. "Well, isn't this cozy?" Nathan remarked, his eyes darting between Melody and Oliver. "The pregnant ex-wife and her loyal knight." "We're in the middle of rehearsal, Nathan," Oliver said evenly. "Is there something you need?" Sophia smirked, her perfect features arranged in false concern. "We just wanted to check on Melody. The Gala committee is concerned about liability issues. A heavily pregnant soloist isn't exactly conventional." Melody carefully placed her cello in its stand. "I've already spoken with the committee. They're fully supportive." "That's not what Maestro Caldwell told us," Nathan countered, naming the Philharmonic's director. "He seemed quite concerned when I mentioned your insistence on performing." Melody felt a cold sensation spreading through her chest. Maestro Caldwell had been her mentor for years, but he was also deeply traditional and protective of the Philharmonic's reputation. If Nathan had gotten to him. "I suppose it's for the best," Sophia added with feigned sympathy. "You should be resting anyway, focusing on the baby. Your career will still be there, afterward, in some capacity at least." Oliver stepped forward. "I think you should leave. Now." After they departed, Melody remained silent for several long moments, her hand instinctively resting on her belly where her child had begun to kick vigorously. "She's upset too," Melody whispered. "How do you know it's a girl?" Oliver asked, clearly trying to lighten the mood. "Just a feeling," Melody replied with a small smile, strong and stubborn like her mother. The next morning, Melody arrived at Maestro Caldwell's office with determination in every step. The elderly conductor looked uncomfortable as she entered. "Melody, my dear, I was just about to call you—" "Is it true?" she interrupted. "Are you considering removing me from the Gala program?" Caldwell sighed heavily. "Nathan expressed concerns about your health and the potential visual impact. The Gala is a traditional event and—" "With respect, Maestro," Melody said firmly, "when did creating life become something to hide? When did my ability to play become secondary to how I look on stage?" She removed a USB drive from her purse. "This is a recording of the piece I've been preparing. Please listen before you decide." That evening, as Melody soaked her swollen feet in her apartment, her phone rang. Caldwell's number flashed on the screen. "It's extraordinary," he said without preamble when she answered. "Raw and honest in a way I've rarely heard from you before. The Gala needs this piece, Melody. The audience needs to hear it." Tears of relief slid down her cheeks. "Thank you, Maestro." "There will be talk," he warned. "Nathan has influence." "Let them talk," Melody replied. "I'll let the music speak for itself." Later, as Oliver helped her pack up after their final rehearsal before the Gala, he hesitated. "What Nathan did is doing. It's unforgivable," he said quietly. Melody nodded. "Yes. I just want you to know—" He paused, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "I've always seen you, Melody. All of you, not just the musician." Before she could respond, her phone chimed with a text from Eliza. "Urgent news about the Gala. Call me." The message from her assistant revealed Nathan's latest attempt at sabotage. He'd convinced several key music critics to skip her performance in favor of a private preview of his new work. scheduled deliberately to conflict with her stage time. Unconventional is exactly what I need right now, Melody replied, a spark of hope igniting within her. As they finalized their plan into the early hours, Melody felt a new sensation replacing her hurt. Not just determination, but anticipation. For the first time since discovering Nathan's betrayal, she found herself looking forward to the gala with something approaching excitement. "You deserve this moment," Oliver told her as he left. "And I'll be there?" Crescendo of truth. The Winter Arts Gala transformed the austere concert hall into a glittering wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast prismatic light over the city's cultural elite, who mingled in their finery while sipping champagne and exchanging carefully curated opinions on the season's artistic offerings. Backstage, Melody sat before the dressing room mirror, applying the finishing touches to her makeup. She had chosen a custom-made gown of midnight blue silk that embraced rather than concealed her pregnant form, with subtle silver embroidery that caught the light with each movement. "You look magnificent," Eliza said, adjusting a pin in Melody's upswept hair. Terrified, but magnificent, Melody admitted. A knock at the door revealed Oliver, handsome in his formal conductor's attire. His expression softened when he saw her. "It worked," he said without preamble. "Josephine Chen from the Cultural Herald is here, along with representatives from every major arts publication." Whatever private preview Nathan planned, it wasn't enough to counter the rumor of an unprecedented collaboration between you and the Experimental Chamber Orchestra. Melody's eyes widened. "How did you manage that?" Oliver's smile turned mischievous. "I might have mentioned to a few key people that what's happening tonight will redefine contemporary classical performance. Which," he added with complete sincerity, "it will." The stage manager appeared at the door. "10 minutes, Ms. Winters." As Melody made her final preparations, she caught sight of Nathan and Sophia in the wings across the stage. Nathan wore a tuxedo that emphasized his tall, lean frame, while Sophia glittered in a gown that seemed designed to draw every eye. They were speaking with Maestro Caldwell, who nodded politely, but whose eyes kept drifting to where Melody stood. When Nathan spotted her, his confident smile faltered momentarily. Melody saw his gaze travel over her gown, her belly, her poised demeanor, as if recalculating some internal equation. Sophia followed his gaze and whispered something in his ear that made him laugh, though the sound didn't reach his eyes. "Places." "Everyone," came the stage manager's voice. The master of ceremonies stepped onto the stage, his voice resonating through the hall as he welcomed the audience and introduced the evening's program. And now a special presentation by Melody Winters, accompanied by the Avant Chamber Orchestra under the direction of Oliver Hayes. As Melody stepped onto the stage, cello in hand, a murmur rippled through the audience, some of surprise, others of appreciation. She caught fragments of whispered comments. "Didn't know she was pregnant." "Bold choice to perform in her condition." "Wonder what Nathan thinks." She settled into her chair at center stage, positioning her cello carefully. Oliver took his place at the conductor's podium, their eyes meeting in a moment of perfect understanding. The audience fell silent in anticipation. Melody began alone, a single plaintive note that hung in the air like a question. The melody that followed started simply, almost hesitantly, before growing in complexity and emotion, the musical embodiment of a journey from doubt to determination. The orchestra joined her gradually, Oliver conducting with precise yet passionate gestures that drew out the story within the music. The piece built toward its first climax, Melody's cello singing with a voice that seemed to reach beyond the confines of the concert hall and into something raw and universal. In that moment, she became aware of the absolute stillness of the audience, hundreds of people holding their breath collectively. Even the ever-present rustle of programs and whispered comments had ceased. There was only the music, her truth made audible. As she moved into the third movement, Melody looked up briefly and caught Nathan's expression from where he stood in the wings. Gone was his smug condescension, replaced by something more complex, perhaps the first genuine emotion she'd seen from him in months. Beside him, Sophia's perfect features had hardened into a mask of barely concealed envy. But it was the faces in the audience that truly moved her. People leaning forward in their seats, some with closed eyes as they absorbed the music, others watching her with undisguised awe. In the front row, she spotted Maestro Caldwell, tears streaming unashamedly down his weathered cheeks. The final movement began, the rebirth promised in the title. Here, Oliver had suggested a radical departure from traditional structure, incorporating elements that reflected both her classical training and the experimental techniques he championed. The result was something entirely new, yet somehow timeless. As the piece reached its conclusion, Melody poured everything into her performance, her pain, her hope, her love for the child within her, and perhaps most surprisingly, her gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this moment of transformation. The final note resonated through the hall, lingering in a perfect moment of suspension before silence. Then came the applause, not the polite appreciation typical of classical audiences, but an immediate, thunderous standing ovation that seemed to shake the very foundations of the building. Roses and other flowers appeared on stage, tossed by audience members moved beyond convention. Oliver extended his hand to help Melody rise, and together they accepted the ovation. Through tears of joy, she saw Nathan and Sophia slip away from the wings, their moment of glory effectively stolen not by sabotage, but by the simple power of authentic artistic expression. As she took her final bow, Melody knew with absolute certainty that this night had changed everything, not just for her career, but for her understanding of her own strength and worth. Part 4. Harmonious Revelations. The reception following the gala buzzed with excitement. The usual measured discussions of technique and interpretation replaced by passionate declarations and superlatives. Melody found herself surrounded by admirers, critics, patrons, and fellow musicians alike, all eager to discuss her groundbreaking performance. Simply transcendent, declared Josephine Chen of the Cultural Herald, her usual reserve completely abandoned. Ms. Winters, you've redefined what it means to be a classical soloist for our generation. Will you record the piece? Asked another critic. The world needs to hear this beyond tonight's audience. Melody smiled, accepting a glass of sparkling water from a passing waiter. That's certainly the plan. Oliver and I are discussing studio time next month. As if summoned by the mention of his name, Oliver appeared at her side, his presence a steadying force amidst the whirlwind of attention. I hate to interrupt, he said with genuine apology to the gathered admirers, but Ms. Winters should probably rest for a few minutes. He guided her to a quiet alcove away from the main reception area, where Melody sank gratefully onto a velvet settee. You were right, she admitted, slipping off her shoes to massage her swollen feet. I do need a break. Oliver sat beside her. You've earned it. What you did tonight? He shook his head in wonder. I've conducted hundreds of performances, Melody, but I've never felt anything like what happened on that stage. Before she could respond, a familiar voice interrupted them. Quite the spectacle, Nathan said, stepping into the alcove with Sophia trailing behind him. Always had a flair for the dramatic, didn't you, Melody? Despite her exhaustion, Melody straightened her spine. I call it honesty, Nathan. You might want to try it sometime. Sophia's perfect features arranged themselves into a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. The pregnancy angle was clever marketing, though you might want to consider how you'll maintain relevance after the baby comes. The industry can be so fickle with new mothers. Oliver began to rise, but Melody placed a gentle hand on his arm to stop him. This was her moment to reclaim. You know what's interesting, Sophia? She said calmly. I used to worry about the same things. Would becoming a mother somehow diminish me as an artist? Would I have to choose? Then I realized that fear comes from believing the lies we're told about limitation, about having to be only one thing. She stood, her pregnant form somehow regal rather than vulnerable. But tonight proved what I've suspected all along, that life creates art, and art illuminates life. My child hasn't diminished my music. She's transformed it into something more honest than I've ever created before. Nathan's expression tightened. Very poetic. But practical realities were what drove you to cheat? Melody finished for him. To abandon your child before she's even born? To attempt to sabotage my career while building yours on the foundations I helped establish? For once, Nathan seemed at a loss for words. I'm not angry anymore, Melody continued, surprised to discover the truth in her words as she spoke them. I'm grateful. You taught me what love isn't, which means I now recognize what it truly is. Her gaze briefly met Oliver's before returning to Nathan. It's support without possession, admiration without envy, growth without fear. Sophia tugged at Nathan's arm. We're expected at Maestro Bartelli's table. Let's go. As they turned to leave, Melody called after them. Nathan. When he looked back, she smiled genuinely. I release you from any obligation to our child. The paperwork will arrive tomorrow. She deserves to be surrounded by love, not resentment. After they departed, Oliver looked at Melody with wonder. Did you mean that? Every word, she said, feeling lighter than she had in months. Why burden my daughter with a father who sees her as an inconvenience? Better to be loved completely by one parent than partially by two. Oliver hesitated, then took her hand. Melody, there's something I need to tell you. Something I've kept to myself for too long. I know, she said softly. His eyes widened. You do? Not the details, perhaps, but I know you, Oliver, better than I realized until recently. He seemed to gather his courage. I've loved you since we were 17, and you played Dvořák's cello concerto at the Youth Symphony Finals. Not just your music, though that was extraordinary even then, but you. Your determination, your kindness, your fire. Why didn't you ever say anything? She asked. At first, timing. Then Nathan. By the time I realized I should have spoken regardless, you were engaged, then married. He shook his head ruefully. I convinced myself that your happiness was enough, that friendship was better than nothing. Melody considered his words. I can't promise anything right now, Oliver. My life is complicated, and will only become more so when the baby arrives. I'm not asking for promises, he assured her quickly. Just possibility. The chance to show you what real partnership might look like. Before she could respond, a commotion near the entrance to the reception hall caught their attention. A distinguished older gentleman was making his way directly toward them, trailed by assistants and admirers. Is that? Melody whispered. Julian Reeves, Oliver confirmed, naming one of the most influential classical music producers in the world. He almost never attends these events. As Reeves approached, Melody stood to greet him, keenly aware of this unexpected opportunity. Ms. Winters, Reeves said without preamble, your performance tonight was revelatory. I'd like to discuss recording your composition as part of our New Voices series, with a full concert tour to follow after your maternity leave. As Melody and Oliver exchanged shocked glances, the night took yet another unexpected turn, one that promised a future neither of them could have imagined just weeks before. Part 5. New Composition. 8 months later, sunlight streamed through the windows of Melody's renovated brownstone, casting golden patterns across the nursery floor. In her arms, 3-month-old Aria dozed peacefully, tiny fingers occasionally twitching in dream-inspired movements. Just like her mother, came Oliver's voice from the doorway. Even her sleep is musical. Melody smiled up at him. The pediatrician says it's just gas, but I prefer your interpretation. Oliver crossed the room to place a gentle kiss on her forehead, then one even gentler on Aria's downy head. The car's loaded. Recording session starts in 2 hours, but we have plenty of time. The months since the gala had unfolded in ways Melody could never have predicted. Julian Reeves had been true to his word, signing her to a prestigious recording contract that allowed her the flexibility to work around her pregnancy and early motherhood. Her performance had gone viral online, introducing her music to audiences far beyond the traditional classical sphere. Meanwhile, Nathan had quickly signed the legal documents relinquishing his parental rights, seemingly relieved to be unburdened. Gossip in music circles suggested his relationship with Sophia had soured after her solo career failed to launch as anticipated. But the most significant change had been the gradual, careful evolution of Melody's relationship with Oliver. True to his word, he had asked for nothing more than possibility, supporting her through the final months of pregnancy, the birth, and the exhausting early weeks of motherhood with patience and unwavering care. Last week, he had finally moved the last of his things into the spare room of her brownstone. Though he spent most nights in her bed, the three of them forming a new kind of family that defied conventional definition, but felt more right than anything Melody had ever known. "I've been thinking," Oliver said as he helped her settle Aria into her carrier. "The lullaby you've been composing, it should be the centerpiece of your next album." Melody looked at him in surprise. "It's just something simple I've been working on for Aria." "It's beautiful," Oliver insisted. "And it represents exactly what your music has become, intimate yet universal, personal yet accessible." As they drove to the recording studio, Melody gazed out at the city streets, reflecting on the journey of the past year. What had begun as betrayal had transformed into an unexpected liberation, allowing her to discover strengths she hadn't known she possessed and to create music more authentic than any she'd composed before. The recording session went smoothly, the musicians of the chamber orchestra responding intuitively to both Oliver's direction and Melody's vision. Aria remained surprisingly content in the sound engineer's office, monitored by Eliza, who had become as devoted to the baby as she was to her professional duties. During a break, Melody stepped outside for fresh air, scrolling through her phone to find a message from Maestro Caldwell. "Reviews for the EP are extraordinary. The Symphony Board is considering my proposal for your residency next season. Terms would include on-site childcare. Call me." She smiled, tucking the phone away as she felt Oliver's approach before she saw him. "Good news?" he asked. "Very," she replied, turning to face him. "Maestro Caldwell wants me as resident soloist next season." Oliver's face lit up. "That's perfect. The experimental orchestra's commission at the Moore Theater is for the same season. We'd both be based here." The synchronicity seemed almost too perfect, as if the universe were finally aligning in their favor after so much turbulence. "I've been meaning to ask you something," Melody said, suddenly decisive. "It's about Aria." Oliver's expression grew serious. "Is everything okay?" "More than okay," Melody assured him. "I've been thinking about her birth certificate. The father field is blank, but it doesn't have to stay that way." Oliver went very still. "Melody, you've been there for every moment of her life," Melody continued. "You love her. I see it in everything you do. And legally, it's possible for you to adopt her if that's something you'd want." "If I'd want it?" Oliver repeated, his voice thick with emotion. "Melody, nothing would make me happier." "But are you certain? It's a big step." In answer, Melody reached up to kiss him, a gesture that had become beautifully familiar over the past months. "I've never been more certain of anything," she said when they parted. "You showed me what love really means, Oliver. Not just telling me, but demonstrating it every day. I want Aria to grow up with that example." From the studio doorway, Eliza called out that Aria was awake and hungry. As they walked back inside together, Oliver's arm around Melody's waist, she felt a profound sense of rightness settle over her. The journey hadn't been what she expected. The music hadn't followed a conventional score. But the composition of their lives together, Melody, Oliver, and Aria, had evolved into something more beautiful than she could have orchestrated on her own. That evening, as Oliver gently played the piano while Melody nursed Aria in the window seat of their living room, she realized that this moment, this feeling, was what she had been trying to capture in her music all along. Not perfection, but authenticity. Not absence of pain, but transformation of it into something meaningful. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall, each unique crystal catching the light before joining others to create a blanket of quiet beauty across the city. Inside, the three of them created their own kind of harmony, imperfect, evolving, and utterly genuine. "What are you thinking?" Oliver asked, noticing her contemplative expression. Melody smiled, looking down at their daughter and then back to him. "I'm thinking about our next composition." Oliver's answering smile told her he understood completely. Whatever came next, challenges, triumphs, ordinary days, and extraordinary ones, They would face it together, creating a symphony all their own. Retry.